Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. We'll get started in just 1 minute. If any of you feel comfortable, if you want to just put in the chat what kind of brought you in here today, I just like to kind of get to know folks that are on the call. If you feel even more comfortable, feel free to come off mic, but no pressure. And I'll just kind of give a minute and then we'll go ahead and get started just to be considerate of your time. Hi, Abby. Great to have you back. We love our alumni coming back to us. Clinical settings since then. And I'll just let folks continue in the chat, but I'll go ahead and get started. Just again, to be mindful of your time. First of all, thank you so much for spending this hour with me. We may not take all of the hour, but we might. My name is Elise Stokes. I am the doctoral program manager. So I work with the online DSW program, and I also work with the PhD in social work program as well, which is in person. If you see me glancing up here, that's because that's where you all are, but this is the presentation down here. So we are the Doctor of Social Work Perspective Student Information Session. I like to just say it out loud because some folks kind of mix the two degrees. So just letting you know. So our DSW program team, I know I've introduced myself. We also have our program director, Dr. Heather Storr. And for those of you, I see some alum that are in the chat. We always love having you all back, and it's been really great to have some of our graduates from the DSW program also teaching after they graduate. So that's been kind of fun to have. So I'm glad you all are here on the call. You may already know Dr. Heather Storr. She teaches in both doctoral programs. And she also has quite a bit of a hand in some of our capstone for the DSW program and a little bit in our admissions as well. Additional faculty who teach in the DSW program, I like to just have this slide here so you can see some faces. Our faculty have a very diverse breadth of research experience. They've also been with the program for quite some time since its inception, but also with Kent School since we've kind of been here for some years as well. So all of our faculty are dominantly full-time faculty. Some of them are already tenured faculty. We do have a few adjuncts that might teach sections within the course. And like I mentioned, we also have some DSW graduates that we have teaching some classes. So we have a variety of folks with us. So some of our part-time faculty, I kind of already have them over here. These are some that taught this year in some of our classes, and they are DSW graduates. And then we also have what I like to say are affiliated or additional faculty. So these faculty don't teach directly in the program, but they are capstone chairs or they are some affiliated mentor in some capacity with the program as well. So a quick program snapshot. Doctor of Social Work again, graduate program, obviously. Our application deadline has been extended to April 30th. Now, that is in a few weeks, so I don't want you to feel panicked if you feel like you need to get everything in right then. Some materials are very easy to get, right? Your transcripts, you can easily request those, filling out the application. I think the challenge students kind of, or prospective students run into the most is usually what are they going to say in their personal statement and, how are they going to do the writing sample? Those are usually the time takers. So if you are interested in applying for the fall 2026 cohort, if you at least get your application started, then I can see that you're in the queue and I can talk with the committee to kind of give you some extension so that way you're able to get the remainder of your materials in. So I did want to mention that this presentation has been made because March 15th is our annual deadline each year, but occasionally we do have an extended deadline. 44 core credit hours. Currently, the tuition rate is $850 per credit hour. If you're active duty military, it could be $250. So it just kind of depends on where you sit and where you are. There are a variety of payment options. You can do a payment plan. There are no specific graduate level assistantships or scholarships for this program, and a large part of that is because it is a part-time program. However, there are some outside scholarships that U of L already has, the University of Louisville already has on some of their websites. If you want to email me, I'll go ahead and put this in the chat really quickly. DSW Kent at Louisville.edu, or my actual one, either or, they all go to me. If you want to email me, I can send you just a list of some scholarships in general that I kind of know of already. The other piece too is if you have a certain employer and they do tuition remission or something of the like, that can also be an option for you. So I just wanted to mention that. The duration of the program, so we're slightly under 3 years, and I know it kind of just depends on maybe some schools if you're looking at multiple ones. Some maybe less, some maybe more. Ours are 8 continuous semesters. So that means that you run straight through fall, spring, summer, and then fall, spring, and hopefully you're graduating in that spring. Occasionally, students do have life circumstances that come up, and sometimes that does extend their time in the program, but we try to, work with students as much as possible so that way they can be retained and supported and all of those things. The other piece I want to mention, because I know we have some clinical folks in there in the chat and on this call, our program is not clinically focused, so I do want to just mention that our program is leadership and teaching focused. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the leadership and teaching sort of intensives or experiential learning opportunities that we have in the program. So I do have just this slide here, just so you can get an idea of where we're kind of coming from with perspective and some of our values. So I know I talked kind of about the class format a little bit. The other piece I want to mention is that our program is a little bit accelerated. So instead of a full semester of courses and taking multiple courses at the same time, you'll actually take one course every 8 weeks. And I do have another slide that more visually kind of details how that works in each semester. So our semesters for the university are typically 16 weeks. So each semester you'll take 2 courses, 1 course for 8 weeks, and then that course stops, and then you take another course for 8 weeks. So it's a little accelerated, but you're only taking 1 class at a time. So sometimes it just kind of works for students kind of better that way, so they don't feel as overwhelmed. Everyone learns differently, so there's always an adjustment period. The other piece too is our program is completely online. So you do not have to have any residency whatsoever in Kentucky or in the Louisville area. Occasionally we do have students who want to pop over if they're already in Louisville or if they're passing through, and we welcome that. The only time we kind of hope students will pop in and stay with us for a few hours is during graduation. So if you want, but we hope students will come once they've kind of completed their journey. But you don't have to come for orientation or anything like that. Everything is completely online. I will say your instructors try to have 2 synchronous sessions. So dominantly your course content, your requirements, your assignments are going to be asynchronous, meaning you do not have to be online at any specific given time. But instructors do try and meet with their students 2 times each term. It's always on a Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they will let you know the specific dates. But it gives them a chance to ask supplemental questions or answer supplemental questions, provide some materials if needed, and just kind of spend that time with their class. That was because we received feedback from some previous cohorts that they wanted a little bit more of that engagement, and so instructors are providing that opportunity. Program outcomes promotes lifelong learning, trauma-informed, and anti-oppressive practices, which this should be probably no surprise to you, and those of you who are familiar with Kent know that this kind of falls right in line. Aims to develop scholar practitioners in leadership and teaching in higher education. So we're not developing research scholars in this particular program. It's not research intensive like the PhD program. We're kind of moving in a more practical direction. Program goals. I won't read all of this to you. I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, but you're going to see the terms leadership and teaching quite a bit as we move through this slide and throughout the rest of this presentation, just trying to drive that home. We're really hoping that we're helping students excel either in their current position or role, or allow them to kind of hone in on some skills that they've been looking for, either in leadership and teaching. Some of our students graduate who have had an interest in teaching. I'm just saying this as an example. And they haven't really gotten the chance to have the experience that they want. They've been more so just on the leadership side of things. And then after our program, they've kind of built a portfolio for themselves to pivot in that direction that they would like to pivot to. So we've had some success with students actually shifting into academia if they want, and we've had success with students shifting into either a higher leadership role or some sort of role that they've been looking to have. So this is the degree map that I was kind of mentioning earlier. So that way you can have a more visual perspective. One of the course titles, I would love it if you just kind of brief over those, just to kind of give you an idea of the type of content that our curriculum specifically has. So hopefully some of these pieces resonate with you a little bit. So just for an example, in year one, you're mostly just taking core content classes. And so you'll see for your fall semester here, you have DSW 700, you'll take that for 8 weeks. And then the second 8 weeks, you take DSW 701. And then it works that way all the way through the spring semester and the summer semester as well. I will say the difference between your academic year, so fall and spring, and summer semester is that summer is even a little bit more accelerated. And that's kind of common in higher education. I've been in higher ed for a while now. And summer semesters do tend to be just a little bit more condensed in general. So for the summer, you're going to take DSW 704 for 6 weeks, and then you'll take DSW 710 for 6 weeks. So that's kind of the only time it's a little bit more accelerated than a kind of normal pathway. For year two, you're going to notice a third course kind of built in. So for example, DSW 714 and DSW 715 for the following spring semester. So we used to call these practicum courses, but they're not really practicum classes. All of you have probably had a master's degree in social work, and so you understand what practicum means in that light. As far as actually having dedicated hours, meeting with your supervisor, those kind of requirements, we don't really have that here. Dr. Shawnice Miller, for those of you who may be familiar with the Kent School, she actually is the lead person, lead faculty member over both the leadership and teaching intensives. So for the leadership intensives, you're meeting with someone who you've identified as a leadership mentor. So this can be someone that is in your place of employment, which most students kind of do it. It doesn't have to be your direct supervisor. It can be somebody in a different department, or it can be somewhere else. But the main goal is you're seeking someone that either has a skill set that you're desiring to obtain, or maybe a position that you want to be in. You'll have some course objectives and some assignments around some of that content that are applicable to the leadership intensive that you've kind of chosen to do. So hopefully that kind of makes a little bit of an easier understanding of kind of how it's going to work. We have had students who are in, let's say, private practice or something similar, you're an entrepreneur of some kind, we will kind of adjust that for you as far as what your objectives might look like, because we still want it to be applicable to you and something that you find beneficial for yourself. If you're unable to find a leadership mentor, then we will kind of help you identify one on our end. Kind of similar capacity for the teaching intensives. And so for the teaching intensives, we hope that you will either work with us to work with a Kent faculty member to co-teach a course, or you have the opportunity, if you're already teaching a course, or if you are affiliated in some way, or know a professor at your local university or local institution kind of near you, then we can work with that person to create a contract with the University of Louisville, and then you're going to be able to do your teaching intensive with that person, kind of co-teaching with them. The same sort of thing applies as the leadership intensive. So you still have some objectives, you still have kind of some guidelines and an agreement with this person of what all you're going to be working on, and you have some assignments and content in the course built around those pieces too. If you are currently teaching a class, you can continue to teach your class. So we will identify someone on our end, or if there's another person on your end to kind of co-facilitate in some way. It may not be co-teaching for you. It may look like something completely different. So whatever you're kind of leading in for. So for example, maybe you want to work on your portfolio so you can be promoted to another level within teaching, or maybe you're going for a tenure track or something like that. So with all of these things, there's so many different nuances because our students are all in different areas and they have different levels of experience. And so we try and work with you all so that way, whatever it is that you want to be doing or working on, we're kind of assisting in that manner, and we're not making you repeat anything that you've already done, or just not getting, the most that you want out of this experience. For the fall semester, we have capstone project. So your capstone is your culminating assignment. You may be familiar, master's level tend to have some sort of capstone or thesis, and PhD programs tend to have a dissertation, things like that. So your capstone is your culminating assignment for this particular program. And it can kind of be on whatever you want it to be. And I'll go ahead and click to the next slide because I've already gotten ahead of myself anyway. So the capstone project, an original evidence-informed project, you'll have some data collection or secondary analysis. We have had students use secondary data during their projects, designed to inform future practice and or teaching and learning. So I'll give you some examples of a capstone project. And I will say it definitely varies student to student. So we had one student do theirs on medical social workers, trauma-informed care. Where is the support for Black LCSWs? Where's the misalignment happening with taking the exam? One person did theirs on healthcare and dementia. Another person has done theirs on sickle cell. Another person has done theirs on school social work. So there's no like cap. It's kind of sky is the limit. Students tend to do it on things that are most valuable to them. We had a military student who wanted to kind of implement a workshop for some military veterans. So it just kind of depends on what most aligns with you, what you want to put into practice or improve with practice, what you want to implement, or what are things you're kind of wanting to evaluate and assess and either produce in a different way or just kind of improve. So it's really a policy and practice kind of ideation that you're kind of doing. So with the capstone project, there are two large components for it. First, in the summer semester, let me go back up. In the summer semester of your second year, this integrative seminar and qualifying assessment, you'll see that it takes over the entire summer in a part 1 and part 2. At the very end of this particular summer semester, you're actually going to work on your capstone proposal. So you'll already kind of be submitting to your committee what your kind of ideas are. The hope is that up to that point, your culminating assignments that you've kind of done along the way will sort of lead you into your capstone, at least to be thinking about how to apply some of the concepts and things like that. So once you have your proposal, you'll kind of move through the process of the capstone, the data collection, and all of that. So by the end, you will have a capstone paper that you've developed, and your committee will be there to guide you. You are assigned a capstone chair, and you will actually meet your chair usually in that summer. So that way you're familiar with them, you get to know them, and you'll also have a second reader as part of your committee. So once you are starting to develop that capstone paper, you'll have two strong faculty members that kind of almost co-mentor you within the process. The other part of your capstone is an oral presentation and defense, which some of you may already be kind of familiar with how that would be expected to go. So it's just kind of a dissemination of your knowledge, what you've learned, the data you've collected, what's come out of it, the implications, how you're going to move that forward into the practice that you're currently doing. Are there any questions about the leadership and teaching intensives or the capstone project? I know it's a lot to soak in.
I apologize for being late.
Oh, please do not apologize. You are welcome. You will also receive, if you did tap in late, no worries. This recording will be accessible to you all as long as you registered. So there'll still be that. Yes, Yvonne.
Yes, I was wondering, is our at U of L, because I'm a card previous MSW, but like is our program aligned with most program? You know how like when I was in the MSW program, we we were kind of aligned with a lot of other programs, you know, across the country, MSW level. Is it the same at the DSW level?
So I'm going to try and answer your question. I think I understand it. So with master's level programs, there usually is a similarity with the types of courses that you have. Some programs may have different concentrations and things like that. If you're going to a CSWE accredited program, then there is, you know, certain stipulations that they have to stay within bounds. Um, for DSW programs, they are just now having the process for accreditation. I don't know if that's where you were going, but I'm just saying it just in case anyone needs to know or wants to know. So as of summer 2025, stipulations came out from CSWE of how other DSW programs could apply who did not participate in the pilot. There were only like 5 schools that participated in the pilot. So right now we are in the process of doing that. We have a postmaster's requirement of 3 years, and that is because when this program was first implemented, we did not know what CSW accreditation would look like and what they would require. So some programs have a less or more requirement of postmaster's experience. For us, because we are now in the process of being accredited, we cannot change our postmaster's requirement until after our accreditation process is complete. So I don't know if that's what you mean as far as like some of the requirements. The other piece too is that some DSW programs are clinically focused, some DSW programs are not. Some DSW programs have concentrations, some DSW programs do not. So as far as like general alignment, most of our programs probably have some sort of similarity in course structure, but I can't really speak for the specific content of each individual program because they might vary. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's very helpful. I just was, you know, kind of wondering, as we're discussing things, you know, in the field with maybe colleagues or things like that, would it be kind of a similar thing where every DSW level had to kind of go through very similar things where they could, you know, like for example, if I'm talking to another DSW, would they be familiar with like these steps that we're going through and be able to provide mentorship or guidance in that regard? Or is it like totally different to where you would need to talk to a DSW who is a U of L, you know, alum?
I see what you mean. I think programs are just gonna vary. I'm just gonna be honest. But I don't think that you could not consult for mentorship because it's still an advanced practice degree. At the all DSW programs at the end of the day are still an advanced practice degree. So I do think that you could have some form of mentorship in that way. I think if it just comes to any specificities of programs, there may be some differences there. That person may be like, oh, I didn't do a capstone for mine, or oh, we didn't do our courses in this structure, or something like that. Maybe their program doesn't have, you know, a integrative seminar or something like that. So as far as like the little nuances and specificities, there may be some differences that they may be like, oh, I don't know if I can relate to that fully. But as far as the concepts and applying things into practice in your day-to-day work that you're doing or kind of where you want to go, I do think that you can seek mentorship from someone regardless of DSW program that they've been in.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is it Shay?
Yes, it's Shay. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right. I had a question real quick. What is the attrition rate of those going into the DSW program? And also, do you charge out-of-state tuition?
No, we do not charge out-of-state tuition. You do not have to have any sort of residency or anything like that. It's just an online flat rate. So right now the current rate is $850 a credit hour. That's just the graduate level tuition, basically in-state rate. It doesn't differ. So there's no, I don't want to say no downside, but It's across the board the same for an online program. In the sense of attrition, can you describe a little bit more of what you mean?
How many people that enrolled in the program actually complete? Because
So
a lot of
our
time, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I will say this. So our program has been alive since August 2021. So it is still very new. We did have 100% for this current cohort coming in. Um, and but I will say there are 2 students within this cohort who are delayed graduation. So they're going to graduate, but it's delayed by a semester. Other students, I think we had 99% for cohort last year and then 100% for the cohort prior. So our very first cohort, which was 2020-24, was 100%. Last year's was 99%. We had someone kind of hang over, and then this year will be 100%, but 2 of them are off by 1 semester. The other piece of that too, though, I want to just kind of say this: when you're comparing those sort of rates, we have a smaller program. So there are some DSW programs that may take in hundreds of students. There are some DSW programs that are more like ours. We kind of shoot for a smaller cohort, so 15 to 20 students each cohort, and we do a fall annual cohort each year. So some DSW programs may do multiple entry points throughout the year. So I just want to say that as a means to keep that in mind as you're kind of comparing programs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Tatiana, or wait, am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes, you said it right.
Okay.
My question was, with the 3 years post, is it based on like the deadline or like fall time?
So if you, let's see, it's 2026. Bear with me. Bear with me. So if the student will be at 3 years, so if it's summer 2023, we'll still count you. If it's spring 2023, we can still count you. So it's kind of by the time you actually begin classes. If you're graduating in like fall 2023, you wouldn't make the cut because you would more likely be graduating in December. So it kind of throws you off a little bit. But if you graduated in spring or summer 2023, you would qualify for this 2026 cohort.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Let's see. Shay?
Yes, I had a question. One of the questions I had, do you accept transfer credit?
At this point, we would have to take a look. So if I go by the graduate school's kind of standpoint, students have to have a B within the class. We can accept up to 6 credit hours in the class, or I'm sorry, 6 credit hours of the institution, could be advocated for 12, et cetera, et cetera. The issue would be the types of courses also that you're wanting to transfer. If you're wanting to transfer in master's level courses, that likely would not happen. The other piece too is our DSW program does not have elective space. So if a course did not count for a core class, it would not transfer in, or you could transfer it and it would just be an extra elective, but it wouldn't necessarily work toward your degree requirements. Other questions?
Okay. Yeah, so I started a while back a PhD program that did not complete in social work that was accredited through GAID. So
what I would suggest is just to email me, since this is kind of a nuanced question. And then I can kind of like take a look and see. It may be how far back it is, the type of course, that sort of thing. We would need the syllabus. So there are just some extra pieces.
yes, that's in reference to research or, social work, statistics for social workers, those type of courses.
Gotcha. Yeah. Go ahead and shoot me an email. And that may be the best way for me to kind of send this along for you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Let me see, because I also see questions in the chat. I want to get to these too. Clarify requirement for U of L DSW admission is 3 years of post-grad experience. That is correct. Most common pitfalls for prospective students who are denied acceptance into the DSW. Well, great question. Denied acceptance. I would say either within, there are two kind of phases, and this is at the end. So uh, I'm just saying everything kind of ahead of time. If we can tell in your application materials that they may not be at the level for success for graduate level writing, for example, that can be, I guess, a pitfall, if you would say. Um, the other piece too, I think, is more so in the interview. When we are asking the applicant questions, it's really just to get to know you all and to see kind of what you're hoping to get out of our program and determine a good fit. So sometimes just based off of that interview conversation, it may be decided this person may not be ready for doctoral program level experience, or our program may not be best fit for what they are looking for career-wise. So for example, sometimes we'll get clinical students and I'll actually reach back out to them after the interview to kind of clarify what they are looking for. And so sometimes based off of that, it just doesn't usually come to fruition. I will say very rarely do we deny an applicant. So rarely. I think maybe one or two each round. So it really just depends on kind of that preparation factor and also what all they have kind of going on. But most of the time, we still kind of will see if we can work with them in some capacity, but we don't want to set anybody up for failure. If we genuinely feel an applicant is not ready for an intensive doctoral program, that would be a conversation that we would have for them. Or if we feel like their application materials are just not kind of bolstering their experience enough, we will provide feedback to say, for the future to, if you want to kind of add a little bit more in from your experience. These are some things that you can do up to that point, and maybe reapply in the future. So it kind of just, it varies applicant to applicant. And Lacey, I think you had a question. Or I may have answered it.
Thank you so much. I had a quick question, but just wanted to hear your thoughts. So if an applicant is closer to like 2 years, but if they're preparing to take like their clinical exam and they are past the clinical, should they still apply or should they wait until the 3 years? Like if an applicant is getting ready to do their LCSW exam and it's been like more 2 years since they've graduated from the MSW program, would you recommend they wait until the next year or should they try?
They should, for our specific program right now, they should wait the full 3 years. And
Okay.
a large part of that, I know I explained earlier how we didn't really know what CSWE would require, and so that's why we had set it at 3 years. But now that we're in the accreditation process, we cannot change it until we are done with the accreditation process.
Okay.
So in the future, after we are accredited, we may bump it down to 2 years. But because of the stipulations around the application process, we're unable to have any wiggle room with that at this time. So.
Okay, I understand. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Other questions before I move on to the next piece? Great. Thank you all for your questions. Difference between PhD and DSW. If you all attended the oh my gosh, CEU event not too long ago, if you didn't, that's okay. Same slide. So occasionally I get this question, so I just like to have one slide on it. I always tell folks, if you're interested in both programs, go to both information sessions because I only have this one slide and that is all I have. The PhD program, aside from format, being in person, and several other factors that are completely different from this DSW program, there's also kind of some content differences as well and intentions. So I occasionally will have someone who's really interested in a PhD program and I'll recommend them for the DSW because they're more interested in policy and practice, and kind of being in that front line of advocacy work, where the PhD, I think, is almost kind of behind the scenes in some way. You're collecting that data and kind of being the reason for the policy change and the reason for some practice, evaluations and implementation and things like that. So that's kind of how I feel like the two degrees kind of work hand in hand. The other piece too I want to mention is that the DSW program is not heavily research intensive the way a PhD program is. So that's the other primary difference between the two. What can you do with the DSW degree? This is not all inclusive. These are just some regular kind of things that we see based on the applicants we receive. We have folks that are interested in so many different things and have so many like years worth of experience. We'll have people come in that have 20 years of practice experience, and we'll have people that come in with 5 years of practice experience. And so it kind of just depends on the individual and where they are in their professional life, or where they're trying to pivot to. And so I think we're very lucky because we have such a variety of students, and they're all able to kind of work together and work with each other and create that camaraderie and learn from each other and bring different perspectives when they're doing assignments, and different things like that. What it takes to be a successful doctoral student. This is all very, I think some people may think that this is common knowledge, but there is going to be a transition period no matter who you are. You are coming in already being in your profession, and then you're coming back to be a student. Yay. And the other piece too is that it's an online program. So, and it's asynchronous. Primarily most of the time, for the exception when you have your leadership and teaching intensives. Obviously those pieces will be a little bit more synchronous for you, and whenever you have your meetings with your instructors. But aside from those pieces, it's an asynchronous program, which means you really have to be very dedicated to seeking out some time for yourself, and thinking about what you can adjust in your life. So kind of be thinking as you move through this program, or as you're thinking about moving through this program, the things that you already do. So if you have a family that you take care of, or someone else that you take care of, or certain commitments that you already have, or volunteer experiences, or if you're on a board, different things like that that take up your time, be thinking about what you can do to either adjust that time. There are some folks that see clients and maybe you'll cut back on your caseload a little bit, just different things like that. What can your supervisor do to kind of help lead you into this successfully? What can your family members do, or your supportive circle do to kind of give you, a little bit of cushion or a little bit of support, whether that be mentally or emotionally or physically? The other piece too, are there things that you can let go of temporarily, for, kind of something that will pay off long term? So just kind of be thinking of those pieces. The other piece too, when you're coming in and you're a student, ask questions just like you normally would. I think sometimes when we get into our profession, we feel like we should be the expert, but this is going to be a transition, like I said. So ask questions. Your faculty are there to support you. I think Kent has one of the most supportive faculty that I've ever seen with doctoral students. So ask for assistance sooner rather than later, and communicate with us. I know I mentioned earlier that, our program is designed to be 8 continuous semesters, but we've had students kind of stop out and things like that for a leave of absence, or they've had a course adjustment or something, so we can still retain them, but keep them moving toward their progress toward their degree, but they can also kind of handle what they need to handle. And that's coming from the communication process. So the longer a student waits, it feels like we have less options to give them, and we want to give you the most options possible so that we can be supportive and that you can still handle what you need to handle on your end, but also we can be supportive from an academic side. The other piece too, be thinking about your capstone topic. You don't have to know what you're going to do down to the very T. Some students change their capstone topic just as they're moving through the program and have different assignments. They think of different things, but just keep it in mind. And then, of course, kind of have your support system, take care of yourself, all the things, give yourself grace, because I'm finishing up a program myself, and I'm telling you, it's a lot. So expected attendance, hybrid sessions for orientation. So I'll go ahead and touch base on orientation really quickly. Orientation completely online. Your orientation does start in July. I know I mentioned synchronous sessions with instructors are Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. So to get students kind of prepared for that, your orientation sessions are also going to be Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. You'll have 4 sessions in July, so 4 Wednesdays in July. They'll usually also have recordings of kind of the initial session with the faculty member or person who is going to be kind of hosting, and it's over a variety of different things. So there's one module on APA style and academic writing. There's another module on searching the literature for those of you who may not be as familiar. There's another model kind of relating to statistics, but not too heavy. And there's one more model, and I believe it's just over the general technology that we use. So that way you can kind of get used to how course assignments are done. We do use Blackboard for those of you who might be familiar. So we're trying to just kind of get you into that groove of utilizing that platform and kind of seeing what you would be looking for. The instructors that host also do give some feedback. So that way you already kind of have that communication there as well. Expected performance, doctoral level writing skills. You will have a weekly course load, 12 to 15 hours per week is kind of what you can be looking at. It looks different for every student. Some students pack it in all on the weekend. Some students try and divvy it out throughout the week. I would recommend not packing it in all the weekend, but everyone knows what works best for them. And then, of course, I know I mentioned the 2 synchronous sessions. And again, just a reminder to communicate when personal issues arise. There's also a Synergist seminar. It's actually merged with DSW Connect, so it's actually one thing. I kind of left these here because we're still kind of revamping it each year based on what student feedback says. So it's a seminar. It's optional to go to. You do not have to go to this, but it'll usually have additional topics or guest speakers or supplemental information. It's really more of like professional development workshops is kind of how you can sort of think about it. It also gives you a chance to meet with your cohort just to create additional connection, and then you'll meet with various faculty members as well. So we try and have some form of additional connection. In the PhD program here, it's in person, so it's easy for students to work with different faculty members as they kind of move throughout their program. So we try and sort of replicate that for the DSW program as well, so that way you all have the same opportunities. Let's see. So candidate requirements, and then I'm gonna turn it back to you all in just a few more slides, and then I see some other things in the chat. So candidate requirements, master's cumulative GPA of at least a 3.0. That's a graduate school stipulation, not a program stipulation. An MSSW or MSW degree from a CSWE accredited program. We are going through the accreditation process, so there's no movement with that. 3 years postmaster's degree of work experience in social work. Again, accreditation process, so there's no movement with that right now. Currently employed in a human service setting and must possess strong written or oral communication skills and analytical ability. So, and I will say this, the written communication skills and analytical ability, that's also something we usually look for in your application materials. As far as the application process, here are the general requirements. So there is a graduate application. It's basically a portal that you create. And after you finish the initial application for the graduate school, you'll be able to upload your additional materials, and we'll see them as they come in. So there is a $65 application fee. We do need your official college transcripts from all previous institutions. So any institution where you have received credits, we would need that official transcript sent from that institution to our graduate admissions office. If you get it from your institution and you send it to yourself and then you send it to us, it will be counted as unofficial. So always send it directly from that institution and have them send it to us directly. If you are a University of Louisville alumni or alum, you do not have to pull your official college transcript. When you note it in your application of the particular institution you've been at, our graduate admissions office will pull that for you. Your personal statement of goals for pursuing the DSW degree. There is a prompt that is listed on our website checklist that you will kind of move through. The personal statement will have certain pieces aligned, kind of what you would expect, you know, why are you choosing this program? What are you hoping it will do for you? Some of the challenges you think you'll experience, how you feel like you can contribute to the program or contribute to the Kent School of Social Work and Family Science. Your current resume or your current CV, a writing sample to demonstrate your writing ability, and you'll also have a prompt for that as well. Again, this is all in the checklist, so you don't have to necessarily remember everything that I'm saying. But the prompt is, choose a social problem, kind of identify why it's important by using some literary components and some research. I think the requirement is about 3 pages, so nothing too extreme, and then kind of APA style, just to get an idea of kind of where you're at with your academic writing. 3 letters of recommendation from individuals familiar with your work or your academic ability and performance, such as current or former supervisors and instructors. The general application process. So once you submit your application and I can see that materials are coming in and it's complete, I'm actually the first reviewer for application. So if I see anything that's missing, I'll usually reach out to that person to say, hey, you may want to get this in, or is there any questions that you have, etc. As far as once I'm done reviewing, I'll pass it to the committee members afterwards. So the committee are faculty. They are going to be the ones that actually provide actual comments. There's a certain rubric that we have and things like that. So once they review it, then I'll receive a recommendation from them if they would like to proceed with an interview for that applicant. If yes, then I will reach out to that applicant with days and times to schedule that interview. You'll have your interview. And then afterward, based on that decision and committee recommendations from the interview process, there will be a recommendation to either admit that applicant or not. The admissions is really more so an offer. So applicants can either defer, deny, or accept admission. Fall application deadline, like I said, our original deadline was March 15th, and the current deadline is April 30th. Classes start the 2nd week of August. As mentioned, your orientation is in July. Tuition and scholarship, if you have any questions about financial aid, I always direct students to the Student Financial Aid Office. If you have questions about military tuition, you can either be directed from financial aid, or if you email me, I can just give you the military connected information on their website. They have a completely different contact point. Like I said, sometimes there's payment plan options, there's scholarships that are outside of U of L and different things like that, depending on what you're a part of. Also, if you're a part of certain organizations or boards, etc., be looking to see if they also have some funding opportunities for you. So some student support that we have. I feel like I'm going over time. No, I'm not. Okay, I'm talking fast. We do provide Grammarly for students. That's automatic when they come in, a Grammarly subscription. Library services for distance education online courses. So you do have access to our online library, just like our campus students would. You have access to our databases, our research and literary resources that we have as well. So for your papers that you're doing and things like that, there's also certain citation platforms or software that you'll have access to in addition to that. Virtual Writing Center. So if you want to have your paper reviewed, they do have doctoral students within the Writing Center to review papers as well. So we like that there's someone that's kind of on the same sort of level that students are able to go to. You also have the option of utilizing your faculty as well for things like that when you need to kind of touch base about where your assignments are landing. Blackboard Help Desk, as mentioned, we do use Blackboard as our learning platform. So of course we have support there, and we also have our general university information technology. So basically anything that's outside of Blackboard that you're having issues with. So if it's, login information with your student ID or something related to that, that's more so the IT side of things, or if there's a certain software extension that's not working for you, but Blackboard has its completely own kind of ticketing process to make it a little bit easier and a little bit faster for response. So this is the information that I have here. I know I've put it in the chat before, dswkent@louisville.edu. That is a program email, but they all come to me. It just makes it easier for people to remember that than my own name. The online learning team is also another resource if you all want to use that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and then see what other questions we have in the chat. will your department be hosting an information session about the PhD in social work program? Yes, currently we are in our admission stage, so we usually don't pick PhD back up until the summer. So be looking at June per se. So I have 2 months before I'll be rolling back into that. But Lacey, if you have some questions or you want to hop on a call, I'm happy to chat with you about that program sooner if you're just wanting to know some information a little more up front. So yeah, go ahead and email me and I'm happy to just even send you some general information for now. But
Thank
information
you so much.
sessions, you're very welcome. Information sessions will happen. Um, Abby, as an individual, if you're transitioning professionally to a job role that is not specifically social work related, would you still be considered a good candidate? I think so. And the reason why is because, well, I think it also depends on what you want to do. So even if it's not social work related, I think our content and our curriculum gives enough insight to other pieces that it can still be valuable for your leadership experience or your teaching experience. It just depends on kind of what you're looking to pivot to. It's just to give you skills. So for example, I'm using my own self because I'm also in a program and I took conflict management in healthcare. I am not in healthcare. I do not plan to be in healthcare, but those theories that I was learning in the classroom were applicable to any industry that I desire to work in my current industry now, higher education. So kind of thinking about it in that perspective, the content is kind of geared in some ways towards social work because we're a social work school. You're getting a doctor of social work, all of those pieces. But things that you're learning are applicable to anything. I've had students come in and now they're writing grants for their particular institution because it's something that they were able to learn in a doctoral program. It's not to say that they're doing it specifically for a social work program, but it's still helpful if you're working in nonprofit or, kind of whatever you're doing. And that's not always social work either. So just kind of be thinking about ways you can utilize the curriculum. It just depends, but it's grounded in social work and it's grounded in, social justice and it's grounded in policy and it's grounded in practice. So just kind of be thinking about how you can apply those to different things. But I do think that it's still valuable, regardless if you choose to utilize it in social work or not. Abby? Oh, this is you again. Hello. Sorry.
Hey, yeah, I just thank you for answering that. I just kind of wanted to elaborate on that a little bit. So,
Sure.
I've been working in a social work field since graduating with my master's. I've been in clinical settings, but I'm planning to transition to director of a daycare. So, I mean, working with children, there's a lot of trauma informed care that goes into that as well, and meeting
Yes.
those developmental needs. So, that's kind of what I was curious about, if that would be like still a good fit in that setting.
I think so, especially with you being the director. So you're definitely going to gain some of the leadership components in our management classes. I think those are definitely applicable to your circumstance, and you're already telling me the trauma-informed care piece and things like that. So absolutely, I think it's still applicable.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hold on. Currently not working. Does that disqualify? If so, what level work would be required? So students coming in are required to work in a human service setting of some kind. I had one student who wasn't directly working in a human service setting, but she was teaching within a master's of social work program or the like. So you do need to be employed in some form facet. And the reason for that is because the classes that you take are meant to be applied into practice. And so if you are not currently working, that makes that extremely challenging to be successful in those classes. I just retired for 30 years. Will it disqualify me from being currently employed in social work? I don't know if I fully understand the question. If you're able to still, like some people retire and then go back to work. So I'm not sure if that's what you're implying with your question. But just kind of back to a similar question that Johnny had said, you do need some form of human service work to be doing this program just because of the content and the assignment requirements. And if you're, I'm sorry if I don't understand your question fully. If you're retired, will it disqualify me from being currently employed? You can be retired and still work. My uncle just did it. So I think a lot of people do it if they want to either want to go back to work or the like. So I don't know if I'm answering your question all the way, Pam. Feel free to elaborate if you want. Any other questions? And like I said, I think some of you attended the CEU, and so I know some of this was probably repetitive, but hopefully some of the rest of it was a little bit helpful in some capacity. Any concerns? Okay. I feel like we had a good group today. I appreciate you all asking such good questions. I don't think I missed anyone's questions. But if you have other questions after this, please feel free to email me, dswkent@louisville.edu. Our application deadline is the 30th, but like I said, if you can start working on your materials and you can at least start getting stuff in, and I can tell that things are moving, then we can always work with you. Just be mindful of orientation being in July. You'll want to kind of have things squared away with financial aid and all of that prior to then. So again, if you're thinking about funding, take a look at your organizations that you're a part of, outside scholarships, boards, and what your employer can also provide you as well. I would hope that everyone on this call, if you do have a supervisor, that they are a supportive one of this decision and are willing to kind of help you with this journey. Let's see. If you're doing volunteer work, will that qualify you? Why don't you email me and tell me the type of volunteer work, and I can ask to see. I don't know that I've ever had anybody do that. So I'm glad it was helpful. So I guess you can reclaim your time, 6 minutes. Thanks all. Appreciate
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Glad to see
you.
everybody. You're welcome.